Hi guys, I'm PUTSY. Welcome back to my channel. It's the first day of April. That means it's time for another TBR video. So this is technically the second or third time I make a TBR video. Last month was the first time I did a monthly TBR. I managed to read at least half of the book that I mentioned in that video. So I'd say that's pretty successful, which is why I want to make another one for this month. The book that I didn't manage to read, turns out I was just not really in the mood for those books. Some of them I won't mention again in this month's TBR, but there are a couple of repeats because I really want to read them, but I just wasn't able to get around to these books last month. So yes, there are a couple of repeats, but the majority of the books that I'm going to mention in this video are not. So just like last month, I will be mentioning physical book, audiobook, and also ebook that I will be reading through my Kindle. I think that's one of the key for me to have a very successful reading month, so I won't get bored easily. So I'm going to do that again this month. So the first category is audiobook. The first audiobook is The Last Mrs. Paris. I think it's by Liv Constantine. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but here it is. I don't really know the genre of this. I think it's just contemporary, but there's a lot of mystery maybe. It involves a woman who are trying to get someone's husband. So she's trying to be Mrs. Paris basically. I actually already started this in February if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know why, I just kind of forgot about it and stopped listening to it halfway through. Of course, I really want to finish this book because so far it's been really good. I'm interested to see where the story goes. Cannot really describe any more about the book without really spoiling it, and besides, I don't really know where the story is going to go. I actually went into this book really blindly. I just saw the cover and I thought it was pretty interesting. I also saw this book mentioned from one of my favorite booktuber. I don't really remember who it is, but they mentioned it, so I was like, that's pretty interesting. And then I saw it's available on Script, so decided to start this, and that's mainly the reason why I listened to this audiobook. This will be one of my top priority for this month. The second audiobook is if you watch my February wrap-up video, I just found one of my absolute favorite series of all time, which is the Ravenhood series by Kit Stewart. This book still lingers in my mind every day. Every time I think about this book, it still hurts. My heart starts palpitating, and it's just, I still feel all the emotion. It's still stuck in my head. I cannot get out of it, but I really don't want to reread this book so soon. I think I'm going to wait a year, but then I also heard a lot of people rave about the audiobook. They say it's amazing, and I also follow Kit Stewart on Instagram, and she posted a lot of like snippet from the audiobook. It made me really want to dive into this world again, which is why in March I actually listened to Flock, and I'm currently on my way finishing Exodus. I kind of tried to slow it down a bit because I'm not ready to experience the whole pain in the middle of the book specifically. So yeah, I'm almost there. I'm trying to brace myself for the worst yet again. It's actually really good. The voice is incredible, which is why the third book from the series, The Finish Line, will be at the very top of my list to read this month, because I don't want to wait. Not that I don't want to, but I don't think I can. Next category, physical books. The first two books that I'm going to mention is actually part of my March TBR, but I wasn't able to get into it. Two books from Colin Hoover, It Ends With Us and Reminders of Him. I wasn't able to get into any of my physical books that I mentioned on my March TBR because I still very much obsessed with my Kindle. I haven't been able to put it down. I don't really have the mood to touch my physical books, which is why I haven't been able to get into it. I mentioned a couple other physical books on my March TBR, but I think I will just try to read that in upcoming months. But these two is like the top two from that TBR that I really want to read, but it's not that I wasn't interested to get into this book because it's been on my TBR for quite some time. Yeah, I just wasn't in the mood for physical books, but hopefully this month I will finally able to get around to reading this. I don't think these two books need introduction, besides I already kind of explained why I want to read these two and what these two books will be about from what I've heard in my March TBR, so yeah. Next is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This has been in my TBR for quite some time. I kind of wanted to read this last year, but I wasn't able to because I ordered this book from Book Depository and the package was lost for a couple of months there. Didn't receive it on time for Halloween time and all of that. I feel like I'm kind of in the mood for a bit of thriller mystery. I don't know why I said it like that. That was a little bit weird. But yeah, it's either a Truly Devious series or a Good Girl's Guide to Murder. These two series are on top of my list for young adult mystery novels, and I know Good Girl's Guide to Murder is like a lot of people's favorite, pretty much trending everywhere, but for some reason I kind of want to get into this one first, just in case that one will be better, so I won't have to compare this to that series. I feel like I will like this series more if I read it first and then get into that series, if that makes any sense. The premise of these two series I think is a little bit similar. There's a student in a school. That one I think is in high school. This one is in university, I think. In Ellingham Academy, there are some mysterious case happening in that school, and this particular student is trying to unsolve the mystery, trying to solve the case. So in that aspects, it's quite similar. By the way, I really love the cover for this whole entire series. It's one of the main reasons why I was interested in the first place. So I will only have 4 books for my physical TBR, because if I put any more than 4, I think it will be just super ambitious. I don't think I will be able to read any of them. Besides, the last book from my physical TBR is really a monster of a book. I mean, look at that. It's the second book from Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas, House of Sky and Breath. It's one of my most anticipated book from 2022 because I love the first book so much. It's actually one of the books that got me into reading again last year. It's probably one of my favorite book of all time, not only because I love the story, but it also just have a lot of sentimental value to me, which is why I'm super excited for this one. I've heard quite mixed review about it. Some people really like it, but there are also a couple of people I've seen that just very much disappointed with this one, even give this like very low rating, 1 or 2 stars or something like that. But I don't know, a lot of people were obsessed with the first one, but there are also a couple of people who are just really not into it, so I'm not too worried about that. I think I will still like this series, but this is very intimidating because it's very thick. I mean, the first book is already super thick, and when I compare it to this one, it's like the first one is like this thick, I think, and this one is huge. It's scary. I already kind of feel overwhelmed just by the sheer size of it, so I don't know if I will be able to finish this in April, but I'm gonna try my best because I'm super excited for it. But yeah, by the way, this is one of the main characters from the first book, Hans Atalar, so I'm guessing this book will get into more of his story. I'm also super excited to see what's going to happen between Bryce, I think that's her name, right? Bryce Quinlan, and the other character that, you know, if you read the ending of the last book, you'll know what I mean. I cannot wait to see her relationship with Hans and also potentially that guy. So yeah, I think there will be a bit of a love triangle going on. Last but not least is books that I want to read from my Kindle. I also have 4, well technically 5. One of them is a duology. So the first book is actually the 3rd book from a series that I just get into in March. I will post my March wrap-up video in a couple of days, so if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Spoiler alert, I read the first two books from Twisted series by Anna Huang. I actually really like it. It's such an amazing book, super angsty. So this month I really want to read the third book from the series, which is Twisted Hate. It's going to be about Josh and Jules. Josh is the brother of Ava, the main character from the first one. Jules is her best friend, so it's going to be sister's best friend, or from Jules' perspective, best friend's brother, which will be super exciting. So far, based from what we've seen in the first book, they just don't get along whatsoever, but it's also very clear that there's some tension, undeniable connection there. There's some potential sparks. I just knew immediately when I saw both of them that they will have their own book, and I was right. A lot of people say this book is their favorite out of the three, which is really exciting because I love the first book. The second one is probably even better, and if Twisted Hate will be even better than those two, then I will have an amazing time reading it. Next is book from Mariana Zapata, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. I just read All Roads Lead Here in March, spoiler alert, and I freaking love it. Totally understand what a lot of people are saying about her writing. She's the queen of slow burn. I totally agree, and a lot of people actually put The Wall of Winnipeg and Me in their 5-star reads. Like, a lot more people love this book better than All Roads Lead Here, which made me super excited because I already love that book. If this is going to be better, then I think this is also Steph Bower's 5-star reads as well. And I think this is also a sport romance between a very famous athlete and someone who worked with him, or his assistant or something. It's a bit of a grumpy sunshine, hate to love, if I'm not mistaken. So all of that combined with the slow burn, I think I will have a great time reading it. Next book is a bit of a dark romance, but I've seen a lot of people obsessed with this series. It's a duology by Sophie Lark called Sinner's Duet. There are no saints and there is no devil. I think this is like really dark. It involves a serial killer, I think. There's an artist and a serial killer. They fall in love. That's the only thing I know, but I've heard incredible things not only about this series but also about Sophie Lark's writing in general. From what I've heard, even though it is dark romance, she always creates such strong, powerful female main character, which is, I think, quite hard to find from a dark romance story. But yeah, I'm super excited to get into it. I'm dipping my toes, well, not really dipping my toes, but more like jump into the pool of dark romances. Turns out I quite like them, so yeah, this is like on top of my list in terms of dark romance. Last but not least, Archer's Voice by Maya Sheridan is like one of the top favorite books in romance genre other than Colin Hoover's books and all of that. I've seen a lot of people who have read this book like obsessed with it. I've really seen bad reviews about this book, which is really exciting, but it's also kind of nerve-wracking for me because I have such high hopes for this. Like, the bar is set really high. I don't want to be disappointed, but I'm also super excited. I think this is the kind of book that right up my alley. I think this will be quite sad, and I love sad romance books. And also it's a little bit of hate to love grumpy sunshine situation, which I really love. The main character in this book, Archer, is very grumpy, but he also just doesn't talk to people, and people in his town kind of shun him. They don't understand him, they don't like him. One day this girl come into this town, intrigued with him and want to have a relationship with him, but he's kind of rude to her. But slowly they will form a friendship and then a romantic relationship. From what I gather, that's kind of the main plot. And if you haven't read this book and you have a Kindle, today, the last day of March, the book is actually on sale. It's usually $5.99 or something, and it's currently $2.99. It's also one of the reasons why I want to read this book this month. I feel like that's a sign, you know, I should get into this book now. So that's it. I know I don't really describe all of these books quite more in depth, but I genuinely don't know much about all of these books. Most of the time I get into the book quite blindly. I don't even like reading the synopsis, the back of the book, the reviews, or anything like that. If I saw people talk about this and like it, that's enough to persuade me to read the books. And also I just want to make a quick video for you guys today. I'm not really in the best mood and physical condition to make video, but I really want to film something and make another TBR video, which is why this is quite short and not very informative, I feel like, but I hope that's okay. If you still like this video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. Like I said, I will post my March wrap-up video in a couple of days. And lastly, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope I can see you in another video. Bye guys.